Welcome back. Let's get you details of the crackdown by the United States in the West against Russia and against Vladimir Putin. Biden has now decided to personally take on Vladimir Putin. How? Well, the United States has now announced sanctions against Putin's two daughters. And America has always said this. They believe that behind Putin's family lies a whole amount of wealth. And that's what they're going for now.
The U.S. is now hitting Putin where it hurts most. An economic squeeze on his family through sanctions on his daughters Maria and Katerina is the latest American move to punish the Russian president.
Our message to those who continue to enable the Russian regime through their criminal conduct is this: it does not matter how far you sail your yacht. It does not matter how well you conceal your assets. It does not matter how cleverly you write your malware or hide your online activity. The Justice Department will use every available tool to find you, disrupt your plots, and hold you accountable.
Putin's family lives far away from the limelight, maintaining a very low, almost secretive lifestyle. The US believes that a lot of Putin's wealth is hidden among his family members and oligarch friends.
As Russia and its aggression continues, we have our eyes on every yacht and jet. We have our eyes on every piece of art and real estate purchased with dirty money, and on every Bitcoin wallet filled with proceeds of theft and other crimes. Together with our partners around the world, our goal is to ensure that sanctioned Russian oligarchs and cyber criminals will not find safe haven.
The new set of sanctions by the US also target the wife and daughter of Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. US sanctions Russia again. Ban on new investment in Russia. Sanctions on banks. Sanctions on critical major state-owned enterprises. Sanctions on Russian government officials and family members. Not only the US, UK has announced further sanctions against 8 oligarchs and the Russian banks in which their money is stashed. What's very clear is that the call for sanctions are getting personally close to Putin. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, the face of the resistance against Russia is no doubt for the last 43 days that of Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky. And since the Russian invasion of Ukraine began, the ratings for Zelensky has nearly tripled from 21% before this war to 90% now. He's essentially become the poster boy of the Ukrainian fight back against Russia.
Entered phase 2, and one would wonder if there is any hope left for Ukraine at this point. Well, it appears the world has shown immense faith in Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Yes, the war has catapulted Zelensky's approval ratings to a whopping 90%, as opposed to the 21% before the Russian invasion began. Ratings prior to the war showed how Ukraine was never so confident about the comedian-turned-president. In fact, during his presidential campaign, Zelensky had received a healthy 73% in support, but all that hype evaporated quickly. Ukrainian citizens were looking for change, which is why they voted out incumbent President Petro Poroshenko. Volodymyr Zelensky was fresh and a new alternative to the old elites. His unconventional image worked in his favor, winning him the presidency. But Zelensky's hype nosedived by 2020 and his approval ratings suffered a scathing dip. In 2021, his approval ratings dropped to 24.7%. People's trust in him fell because around the time, Pandora Papers revealed that Zelensky was amongst those world leaders who held offshore companies. This was in direct contrast with his anti-establishment and anti-corruption crusader image. However, Zelensky tried justifying himself, claiming those companies were established only to defend his businesses in Ukraine. Besides, there were several election promises that Zelensky failed to deliver. Zelensky was also widely criticized for deepening his alliance with the far-right neo-Nazi forces in Ukraine, especially when news broke out of his involvement with convicted criminal Serhiy Stanenko and how Zelensky tried to crown him as chief of Ukraine's security service. But now that's a tale of the past. Zelensky has got a whole new image makeover. He's now viewed as a glorious, brave and a gallant president of the embattled country. He risked his life staying in Ukraine, survived assassination attempts, and has been consolidating support for Ukraine, staying on the front lines day on day. Zelensky now is truly the poster child of Ukrainian patriotism, trying to fend off the Russian invasion. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, there's been endless discussion about exactly what India's stand is, and we've forged essentially our own diplomatic path amid this Cold War 2.0. Yesterday, you had External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar in Parliament setting the record straight on exactly what India's stand is as far as this war is concerned. He said very clearly that we are always on the side of peace and will keep India's interests first.
As the Ukraine war rumbles on destructively, one of Russia's oldest allies, India, has been on constant geopolitical spotlight. Why is India going soft on Putin's invasion? Is India alleviating the impact of Western sanctions on Moscow? Why is India still buying Russian oil and weapons? Has India aligned itself in a deeply polarized world since Putin's tanks rolled into Ukraine? The answers to all these questions came when External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar put the record straight in Parliament, stating that a fearless India is charting its own course in global diplomacy.
If India has chosen a side, it is the side of peace.
Hours ago, Jaishankar had spoken to his U.S. counterpart, Antony Blinken. In the backdrop of increasing disquiet in the West over India's indications to buy larger volumes of discounted crude oil from Russia, soon after a dire warning from the White House against buying oil or weapons from Putin. But India's message was unmistakable.
We don't believe it's in India's interest to accelerate or increase imports of Russian energy and other commodities. Right now, just to give everybody the full scope of it, India's imports of Russian energy represent only 1 to 2% of their total energy imports. So while he explained both the mechanisms of our sanctions and reiterated that any country or entity should be abiding by those, we also made clear that we'd be happy to be a partner in reducing their reliance or even their small percentage of reliance on that.
Like all countries, we too are assessing the implications and deciding what is best for our national interest. Members are aware that in a complex and globalized world, every nation takes into account the reality of interdependence. Therefore, even as they express their position in words and deeds, they also adopt policies that safeguard the well-being of their population.
It began with U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor Dalip Singh, who made the seemingly callous, intemperate remark, lecturing India on how Russia would not step in if China escalated operations at the border. A remark that has been widely derided, including by India's former ambassador to the UN, who labelled it as coercion.
What we are seeking to do, whether it is in the context of India or other partners and allies around the world, is to do all we can to see to it that the international community is speaking in unison, speaking loudly against this unjustified, unprovoked, premeditated aggression, calling for an end to the violence.
India, as you are aware, has always been in favor of resolving differences and disputes through dialogue and diplomacy. In our meeting today, we will have an opportunity to discuss contemporary issues and concerns in some detail.
India repeatedly putting its national interest as sacrosanct, refusing to get drawn into a damaging Cold War of superpowers. turning the proverbial page in global diplomacy. Bureau Report, India Today.